Is this video really what it seems like? You should avoid these fragrances at all costs. Avoid them. Do not wear them. Do not look at them. Do not think about them.
Definitely don't smell them.
Do I have an angle with this? No. What you see is what you're getting. You guys know me. Yes, avoid these fragrances at all costs if you don't want to smell great and not generic. I've chosen 10 fragrances that I think are unique and definitive and extremely classy. I'm just going to be real with you. They're going to appeal to the minority of you guys. But I do believe that they will still be easily likable when they're worn well. What does that mean? It could mean a range of things, but the simplest way I can put it is don't overspray. And just for kicks, none of these fragrances are necessarily summer fragrances. They're not made for summer. However, they can work really well for warm evenings in particular. So we could call this a summer evening list. I've done something like this recently, but I don't think we get enough of this kind of content on YouTube when it comes to summer fragrances. We always talk about the daytime freshies, but let's focus on the evening just a little bit. So all 10 fragrances will be linked in the description. And let's dive right into it. If you don't want to smell like a highly likable, classy, somewhat fresh oud fragrance with a little bit of a spicy zing, yes, a fresh oud, then you are going to want to avoid this fragrance at all costs. That's Oud Tonic from the Gate. Avoid it if you don't want any of what I just said. If you do want what I just said, then don't avoid this fragrance. As far as ouds go, it's one of the most wearable and maybe most versatile oud fragrances I've come across. Basically, again, could be worn in the warmth as well as the cool weather. It's not super heavy. It doesn't have crazy sillage. It is no slouch. It will last anywhere up to like 8 hours on me, but it doesn't scream off the skin. It's not overwhelming. It's not like your typical super hyped oud fragrances these days. Again, classy. That's what we're talking about. If you want a fresh oud with some depth and interest, man, check out Oud Tonic from the Gate. Let me know what you think if you've tried it. I've been sitting on this fragrance for a couple months now. I'm going to be real with you guys. And the reason is because I didn't love it when I first got it. This is a relatively new release that came out earlier this year, 2025. I got my nose on this and I'm like, this is interesting, but I'm not enjoying the wearing experience. So I shelved it for a bit. I pulled it back out recently and I'm like, you know what? I love this house. I love what they do. And this is why I love what they do. I just needed a second to come around to it, wear it in the right way to the right occasions. And now I'm really digging this stuff and I can easily recommend trying it unless you don't want something unique. Again, avoid it if you don't want anything remotely interesting. This is Terre Eau de Parfum Intense, also just called Terre Intense. Wow, kind of polarizing. Not everyone is enjoying this one, but some people are really appreciating it as kind of a, for lack of a better term, niche-like fragrance in a designer bottle. It is the Terre DNA. It's pretty muted. It's pretty pushed to the background. You don't get vetiver super forward as you do in previous releases, but it's there. That slightly smoky, bitter woodiness, but it's so far down underneath coffee. Lots of coffee, maybe a touch of bright citrus and lava. Yeah, I think it was the lava accord, whatever the heck that really is, that was throwing me off. On my skin, it was just strange. It's kind of this embering, smoldering, smooth, almost musky feel. Definitely feels not the most natural, and I think that's what threw me off. It has a tinge of a scratchiness to it, at least up close and at least for the first hour or so. After it sits, and you don't really worry about digging your nose into it, man, it just adds this interesting dimension to the scent. It pushes it out in a very different way. The way it just behaves on your skin with that warm, slightly sweet coffee, with the woodiness, it is honestly what a flanker should be. It is not redundant at all. Quite a special fragrance, gonna be really classy for this situation, unless you don't want to stand out. Otherwise, don't even think about it. Now we're going all the way woody. We had a little bit of woods with Terre Intense, and this one is super wood heavy, but it's still light, it's still classy, it still wears in a very sophisticated way, which to me means it doesn't scream because it doesn't have to. This is from Houbigant and they call this Bois Mystique. This is the Eau de Parfum. I do believe they have a Parfum, Extrait de Parfum, whatever it is. I haven't tried that one, so I can't speak for it. The Eau de Parfum is what I have, and I love the balance here. It is in the realm of something like Royal Oud from Creed. Yes, it's not identical to that. Maybe a little bit redundant, not so much in smell, but more so in function, but they do have some overlap in terms of the woody presence. It is dry, somewhat spicy, peppery, and definitely, again, woody. I get this somewhat herbal quality in here, almost like being out in a forest, like a natural tree or bush or vegetation vibe wrapped up in here that's slightly sweet, but not super vanillic or ambery, just like almost natural tree sweetness, if you can imagine such a thing, but has a transparency to it. It allows light and air to pass through it. It is so classy. It's a standout without standing out, if that makes sense, but avoid it if you don't want any of that. This is my favorite white floral fragrance, period, at least right now. This is beautiful stuff, and if you're a guy who is squeamish about white florals, I highly recommend you try this one, because this may change your mind, unless you're afraid to face your fear of white flowers. Otherwise, avoid this. From Zaharoff, Signature Bloom, one of my favorites from the house. When I got this fragrance, I feel like the juice was clear to almost yellow. It's changed, and as a result, the scent has deepened and richened and just gotten more of itself. It is perfectly unisex, but as far as a white floral goes, I think it is one of the most masculine white floral forward fragrances that I've tried. And it's white florals, mainly jasmine with incense, smoky, wispy incense that kind of carries and envelops the softness, the posh quality of the jasmine flower. There's different types of jasmine in here. Smells of super high quality, just like the highest quality jasmine, maybe more than one variety, all wrapped up in here with this woody incensey base. The incense really comes forward as it dries on the skin and as the white flowers kind of come to the background. So very unique as far as what I've smelled, as far as white flower fragrances go. But once again, if you want to steer clear of white florals, even the good ones, avoid it. You've been warned. Next up is new to my collection, but probably not new to your hearts. I know a lot of you guys really enjoyed this one, probably have this one. This is apparently a special new batch of it, but there's a whole lot of hoopla and controversy around that in the online community. But nonetheless, Amouage Reflection 45, and this is their 5-month aged batch or something like that, which I believe, according to the story, was kind of an accident. It just got held up in transit or something, and as a result it aged a little bit longer and they decided to sell it for a premium. Obviously it's going to be up to you if you feel like it's worth it. Otherwise, just find other bottles or other batches of this fragrance. This is a fragrance that when I first got my nose on it, when it came out in its original form, I thought it was good, but I just prefer the original. And I still think I do prefer the original Reflection Man, but I can really appreciate this for its wearing experience. I don't know if it's because it's been aged. I don't think I really detect the difference from what I remember about the other version, but I do like this more than I remember liking the older version of it. This is definitely orris forward. Lots of iris here, but that earthy kind of rooty, buttery version of iris. Very rich, borderline creamy, powdery, but deep and earthy. There's maybe some white florals in here as well. Maybe some incense, some resins. It's warm, slightly sweet. It still does smell kind of white as the original Reflection Man does, but I think this reflective quality that they've given it, a la some of the previous releases from the brand, is perfectly suiting the scent that is inside. It is so classy. It's very powerful. This is a fragrance you don't need much of. I would spray no more than twice for the occasions I would wear it for, and it just lingers in the air in a beautiful way that does not choke everyone and does not keep everyone's attention all night long, because that gets old. No one wants to smell your fragrance constantly and have that be the only thing that they can smell. Be considerate of others. That's all we're saying here. Anyway, if you don't want to stand out, if you don't want to smell special and unique, avoid Reflection 45. You hardly see talk about this fragrance, let alone this collection. And honestly, this house in general, people just don't really talk about Cartier quite as much as I believe they should. This is L'Oeuvre Mysтерieuse. I've had people say, hey man, is Cartier paying you? You're always plugging their fragrances. You're always talking about how underrated, under discussed they are. Are you on their payroll? My answer is, I wish. I don't know how much money I've made this brand. I just like them. Cartier, if you see this, holla at your boy. Nonetheless, L'Oeuvre Mysтерieuse, also number 12 in this collection, which is, I believe, a collection that pays homage to Cartier's centennial. And this particular one, based on elemi resin, patchouli, and I think incense. Basically what it smells like to me is a somewhat wispy, fresh, almost chocolatey, sweet, earthy, smoky fragrance that's a little bit damp with this balsamic elemi resin. It's a very simple scent. There might be more to it than that, but that's mostly what I get. It's simple, but it's so unique. It's so wearable. It has this enigmatic quality in the air, utterly classy, gonna get beautiful attention of people who are like sitting across from you, especially when you're dressed up. This is just night out classy vibes to a T. Lovely stuff. If you don't want any of what I just said, if you want to just smell like another dude out here, nothing wrong with that. Avoid Le Mysterieux from Cartier.
Avoid it at all costs.
This is no stranger to the channel. I've been loving this stuff for years. It was love at first sniff for me, but for some of you guys, you may not like this one. You have been warned, do not blind buy a bottle of this. Avoid it if you don't want to smell like nothing anyone's ever really smelled before. Diplomatique. This is a vetiver forward fragrance. And it's the smoky variety of vetiver, a little ashy, bitter, mouth-watering, blended with maybe some citrus and some spice. It almost smells boozy, maybe some patchouli, I don't remember. There's like a damp, almost wet quality to this vetiver. It's like they drenched it in some kind of not very sweet whiskey or something like that. It is a definitive fragrance. It is very provocative. It's one that can easily turn noses if you don't wear it right. Heck, it may turn your own nose if you don't wear it right. So sample it first. I'll link to what I can find down below. Don't spend a whole lot of time smelling it right up close right away. You'll probably be turned off because it's going to be super vetiver forward. So if you're afraid of vetiver and you have no plans to confront your fear, avoid Diplomatique at all costs. This is not going to make your life better. However, if you're one of those guys that you're up for a challenge, you want something very interesting, classy, something that can elevate your fragrance game in terms of what you're aware of that's out here, link down below. One of the most special iris fragrances I've tried in a long time, similar to the Amouage, more on the orris side of things, more on the buttery, earthy side of iris. And orris is the root of the iris flower, if you didn't know that. This is Pelagos from Dusita. This is orris by the sea. There's something kind of like sea air about this. It doesn't smell like water. It's not an aquatic. It's just like being away from the shore a bit, like on land, and you're just getting the air of the sea kind of whipping through these iris flowers nearby. It's so rich and buttery, but kind of fresh in a way, maybe a little bit green, just rich, full-bodied, but something kind of uplifting about it. But definitely nighttime wear for me. If you're asking me, it just wears kind of dense and thick with the orris presence. So that's why I prefer to wear this for the evening time, and especially for those classy occasions. But again, if you don't want to ruffle any feathers, if you don't want anyone to wonder if they like the way you smell or not, if you just want to be a surefire compliment getting machine, avoid Dusita Pelagos. Just avoid it. One of the most posh leather fragrances in my collection is easily Milano from Bois. I think it's so aptly named, even though I've never been to Milan, and hopefully one day I will go. But this is the vibe that I imagine. There's this very supple, just kind of luxurious, expensive smelling leather, almost like walking into some kind of expensive like luxury department store or boutique or something, and there's leather goods, and you just get that smell mixed with a little bit of fruits, like a berry feel. Doesn't really smell like Tuscan leather. Leather and fruits might make you think of that. No, this is so smooth. It doesn't have the rough edge like the saffron or the ashiness that Tuscan leather has. This is just opulently smooth, a little bit fresh, maybe a touch of a green quality to kind of balance out the little bit of fruitiness that's here. And that leather just wraps it all up in one of the most natural ways that I've tried, at least on the smooth and accessible and pleasant side of leather. If you don't want to smell like an elegant, sophisticated, luxurious leather scent, avoid Milano from Bois. And our final fragrance here might be the subject of a future video, fragrances that I was wrong about. I can't say it's been a complete 180 and that I'm head over heels over the moon about this, but after some recent wearings, I'm realizing this stuff is good. Kind of different. It is reminiscent to a fragrance they've already put out. This is coming from Tom Ford, but it does have its own vibe to it. And now I'm kind of seeing the inspiration behind it a little bit differently because I had a preconception going in. This is Bois Pacifique, their new release from 2024. When I first got my hands on this, I was expecting something more overtly aquatic, more fresh, more salty, just more sea oriented, dealing with the Pacific Ocean. But I've learned that it's a little bit more of a darker, richer version of an aquatic. It's more geared towards the northern Pacific, near the northern United States there. And that's not super beachy ocean. That is gloomy. It's kind of brooding. It's a little bit moody. There's something dark about it. And it is represented here very well. There's a smoky, I think, incense with woodiness, a little bit of a sweet ambery feel behind it that just kind of grounds the scent. And yes, a touch of this almost salty sea air vibe hovering over the top. Doesn't last all that long on my skin. I mostly get kind of the ambery woodiness that takes hold a little bit more, but it's a lovely fragrance. I love the vibes in the air. I love the sophistication it brings. And yes, it is a little bit unique, even though it does remind me of Ebon Fume from Tom Ford, but a more tamed, maybe less definitive version of that. It's just a little bit more muted, a little bit less in your face than that one, but I love that fragrance. Nonetheless, if you're looking for a summer evening fragrance that may turn heads in a way that doesn't smell exactly like the norm, exactly like the mainstream, but is still accessible and understandable as an elegant men's fragrance, then check this out. But if you don't want any of that, if you just want to smell straight out the shower, fresh, super mass appealing, maybe even a little bit forgettable, then avoid Tom Ford Bois Pacifique. In fact, avoid all of the 10 fragrances I've just shared with you. They will be linked down below once again, and you can avoid all those links if you're not into this kind of thing. So I'm just going to leave it there.